Alright, this is a 1985 Jeep Grand Wagoneer that I've been working on for the last year or so. I bought it from a friend of mine who started to do the work on it, basically got it painted and collected a lot of parts, but couldn't continue on due to other interest that he had. So I bought the car from him. Everything was in pieces. It was painted. None of the chrome was on the car, mirrors, wood, anything. None of that was on the car. This is the fourth Grand Wagoneer that I have worked on and sold. I do it as a hobby. I started about 4 years ago and started working on them and buying more of them and buying parts cars and collecting parts and just kind of learning about stuff. But this is a nice car, about 75,000 miles. It's got a clean Carfax. Be happy to fax it or email it to you. What I did with this car, of course, new wood. It's all done by Team Grand Wagoneer. Cherry oak is what they call it. It's got refinished rims, machined and painted, powder coated new tires, white wall, Hankook. Optima tires. I think they're the only company that really right now is making white wall tires. So all of this, this is not chrome, it's stainless steel. Stainless steel. This is chrome up here, but all the stainless steel was off. It was all buffed out, all the scratches, as best we could get those off of there. And new windshield, glass, obviously had been all removed. All new rubber from BJ's Off-Road or Team Grand Wagoneer on all the windows, all the doors, all the windshield, door liner, all of that. This is the interior. It's the honey interior that I think only came in 85 and 86. New seats. This is the original fabric inserts that I was able to find. Notice the armrest is level at the level it should be. A lot of these Jeeps, you'll see the armrest kind of touching the bottom of the armrest. That's because it's bent, and most people don't take it apart and weld it and put it back together again. All new ACC custom carpet from BJ's. I went ahead and bought the custom floor mats that really make it look nice. When you look at these other cars around the country, particularly the ones in Texas that have price tags of $90,000 to $120,000, look at the mats in the car. They're cheap car mats from Costco, made by Goodyear, just crummy little $29 car mats. If you're going to pay $75,000, $100,000 for a car, you ought to require the seller or at least give you the matching car mats that are made by ACC as well, instead of the $29 ones. But anyway, people have to save money somehow. All right, the windows were all tinted, professionally tinted. Obviously, all the roof was taken apart, sealed. Underneath, we did obviously new headliner. I put 3 layers of insulation under or on top of that headliner on the roof, similar to Dynamat type material, and then a different product called Noico, Noico, that you can get on Amazon. It's a foam noise blocker as well as insulator. So use those two, and then sometimes a bubble wrap type insulation as well. But the original Jeep comes with nothing other than the headliner, but that's been replaced, recovered. And show you the other side of the interior. There's your wood. There's your interior here. Dashboard. Steering wheel was refurbished. Again, the brand new inserts. Of course, all this material is new. There's the rear seats. And there's the back cargo area. And we'll come back here. There's the rear. Go ahead and roll down the window. And the rear. All new rubber. You know, all these stainless steel strips in here were all pulled and polished, put back together. The floor has, again, the Dynamat type material covered with a foam marine grade aluminum on one side product, mostly made for boats, but I use those on top of the Dynamat material. On the floor as well, I used a Raptor bed liner, sprayed the entire, you know, we patched any holes or removed any rust, cut it out. There wasn't a significant amount of it, and then covered it with a rust like product like 415, and then I sprayed the whole thing with Raptor bed liner, so it's waterproof. If anything does leak through the carpet, it's not going to get down to the bare metal and cause it to rust. So the Raptor bed liner, then the Dynamat type material, and then the marine product and or the Noico foam product. That is all. So it's very quiet. Let's talk about the air conditioning on the inside. New evaporator. This entire unit's dropped. New evaporator was put in. New hose, AC hoses. New compressor. I went with the Sandin style AC compressor. Most of the older ones came with the York, but wasn't crazy about the York unit. Everybody says the Sandin is the way to go. But of the cars I've done, I've used the Sandin, and it seems to work really well. Nice and cool. So let's open the hood. So here's the hood. I used a engine insulation pad. This is doesn't really help with noise. It's more to keep the hood from overheating and ruining the paint. But that's the I think that came from BJ's or Team Grand Wagoneer. Okay, the engine. This is a Jasper, new remanufactured Jasper engine. The engine itself cost $4,000. Refurbished from Jasper. Comes with a 100,000 mile warranty, just like the fellow in Texas is starting to do. He's starting to put Jasper motors in his cars. So far it's been a great motor. Went right in, no leaks. I mean, it runs smooth and nice motor. So anyway, it was all painted. All the exhaust manifolds were sandblasted and painted. Intake manifold was sandblasted and painted. Valve covers, original valve covers, blasted and painted. Got a new power brake booster, new master cylinder, new power steering pump. A lot of these pulleys were pulled and sandblasted and repainted. Same, just like the valve covers, they were pulled, sandblasted. New I-amp alternator. All the electrical pretty much is running on separate relays now. I use the Holley Sniper 2300 two-barrel fuel injection system, which runs off of it's recommended to run off of its own relay because of the weak wiring in these Jeeps. But anyway, it's all on separate relays. The headlights are now on separate relays. This is the Rob MC surge tank that you need to use if you're going to use the Holley Sniper. Because the line returning the fuel to the fuel tank in the Jeep is too small, and this compensates for that and allows you to use the smaller return line. If you want to replace a return line, replace your fuel sending unit and your tank and drop your tank and do all that and add a bigger line, you can do that, but it's a lot of work. I'm not sure it turns out that well because you gotta, anyway, I've never done it that way. I've looked into doing it, but this is so much easier. It's worth the $350 to buy this tank. And so what it does is takes the fuel, bumps it up to 60 psi, and then runs the Sniper. I also use the Holley HyperSpark ignition system, which includes a new distributor, new coil, and a new ignition box. These are all made by Holley, and it's got the MSD wiring. Holley also owns MSD. All of this stuff is plug and play. The back of this unit has a plug, plugs into the rear of the Sniper, which has a built-in computer. It hooks into the distributor. Everything is all coordinated between all of them. I've had different distributors and had problems with them, but this thing is smooth, works great. The car can sit for a month and start right up. If you've got a carbureted vehicle, I don't care what kind of condition it's in, you let it sit for a month, you're probably going to run your battery dead cranking it to get enough fuel in there to get it going. But the Holley is a great system. I've got several OEM air cleaners. I just like the look of the Edelbrock one. It just looks better, I think works better. If you want the OEM, if you purchase the car and you want the OEM air filter, container, whatever you want to call the thing, housing, I have one. I'll be glad to throw it in. So most all the wiring was upgraded that drew voltage. New vacuum lines, new radiator, new BJ's aluminum shroud, just more efficient cooling, especially here in South Florida. It gets hot. These are all stainless steel braided fuel lines, are covered with kind of a black fabric so they don't conduct electricity or cause a spark by touching something. So good product. A6 fittings, all connects very easily. So I don't think you'll find a cleaner engine bay or setup that I've got going here. All of this was pulled off and sandblasted. Okay, so I think I've explained the motor as best I can. The transmission was also pulled and rebuilt by a professional transmission rebuilder. The transfer case was pulled and rebuilt, and new exhaust, new Walker exhaust on the car. Underneath was coated with Raptor bed liner. Really was minor surface rust. I don't spray that heavy goopy stuff on there to cover up anything. I just used the bed liner, which is really very thin but effective material. New brakes, new discs, new calipers, new shoes, new wheel cylinders in the rear, new brake hoses, and as I mentioned earlier, the power brake booster and the master cylinder. For speakers, I bought these from Crutchfield, JBL, or some brand like that. I have a small little amplifier in the panel back here. I have the Pioneer radio. I wanted to put the big screen in here, but it just doesn't work with the dash. It sticks out too far. So nice radio, Bluetooth, hands-free, all of that. All right, I've pretty much gone over most everything that I can think of. that's not listed in the ad. We'll go ahead and start it up here. Alright, here we go. Here's the mileage. This is the Holley LCD display that tells you, your engine temperature, your voltage, your RPM, and then you can tune this, tap on the screen and change the fuel ratio, whatever you want to do. But it automatically sets it. You put in an O2 sensor into the exhaust and it reads that and then adjusts it accordingly. Once you get it set up, it doesn't take very long to set it up. It works great. It tells you exactly what's going on. Here's the air conditioner. It's a cool air conditioner. It's been sitting here probably 6 months since I did it. It's not leaking. Works every time. Let's see if we can go for a ride here. I can get it set up properly. Windows all work. Locks, so forth. The locks are touch and go. The problem with the locks in these cars is there's a little spring in there that controls the lock mechanism. They frequently break, and then the door, once you slam the door, it'll automatically lock because the weight of the lever pulls down on it and locks it. You can replace the spring. BJ sells the spring, but then it makes it too stiff and the solenoid doesn't have enough power to override it. So they work most of the time. I'm not going to say they're perfect. I don't know of any solution. I've bought solenoids, I've replaced springs, I've taken the springs out. I don't know what to tell you. They work pretty good, that's all I can say. Obviously the new visors were upholstered. Dash. Well, here we are, we're going a little cruise. We've got real great oil pressure. We're running, 50 right now. Most of these older cars, they drop down to about 10. But it's running at about 60. The gauges work. The ammeter was disconnected because if you read online, it's a source of fire hazard because all the electrical juice ran through the dashboard and back to the engine, and a lot of people it can cause fire. Read online, it'll tell you about the ammeter. So because I have the Holley setup, it tells me right now I've got 13.6 volts coming out of my alternator. It's better than the ammeter anyway. There we are. Nice and smooth. I forgot to mention on the front Obviously, all new shock absorber, steering stabilizer. It's got a new power steering gear, whatever you call it, gearbox that's been replaced. Tie rod ends were replaced. Tie rods were replaced. Bushings, the sway bar bushing were replaced. Can't think of anything else. I'll try to take some pictures of the underneath so you can look at that as well. New wipers, wiper arms were sandblasted and painted. Actually, the wiper arms are new, but the actual OEM wiper arms were sandblasted and painted. It rides nice. It's a great car. I've enjoyed working on it. It's taken about a year and a half for me to, finally put it all together. Like I said, I do it as a hobby, and so I challenge you to compare it to other cars that are listed around the country. They've gone up in value since I started. A fellow in Texas seems to be the barometer of pricing, and he's got several over 100,000 miles with similar mileage with Jasper Motors. There's a fellow in New York who's also selling them in the 70s and 80s. I'm not going to give any history of the Wagoneer. When you read these ads, the ads all talk about what a great car and how unique they were. It really doesn't matter. What you want to know is what's been done to the car, what's been replaced, what materials did you use, and how's it going now. To tell you this was just a great car in the 80s and the only one made, etc., etc. So what? They're not running fuel injection. Not worth having, yes, but I've gone through about 5 carburetors on my various cars, and I can't ever get them to work. Fuel injection is the way to go. Holley's great. They've got great support. So that's pretty much it. Got any questions? Glad to answer them. I love talking about these cars. I've learned a lot over the last 5 or 6 years. Got a few more sitting in the driveway. I got another one coming out of the barn, Baltic Blue 86 that I'm working on now. Probably be ready in about 3 months. I may keep it. There's such great cars and that people love looking at them, talking to them. Most every celebrity owns one. Every fashion designer owns one. They're on the cover of most magazines. You see them in commercials. They've definitely gone up in value since I started fooling with them, and if you look at values, I think you'll see that. So, good hunting. You don't buy my car, no hard feelings, but ask a lot of questions, and hope you'll come up with a good one. Thank you. Right, I'm going to show you under the car. You can see the new bushings there. Tie rod ends, steering stabilizer, new shock absorbers, caliper, exhaust, new. You can see the new steering box here, new rag joint here, your fuel lines all stainless steel going back to the rear. See all this, and we'll come over here. This is my transmission oil cooler. I took off the crummy one that's on the front of the Jeep because number one, it blocks the flow through the condenser and of course affects your air conditioning. These things, little fin things, they work pretty good. I mean, I'm not doing heavy duty towing anyway, but much more efficient design. There's your floor. You can see all the way back here. You can see all of that. There's your gas tank. There's your muffler. There's your transmission and transfer case. There's your fuel pump. Come along here. Again, your floor material. There's the bottom of your floor for its rear. You know, obviously these gaskets were replaced and new transmission fluid, axle fluid put in. And the trailer hitch. And there we are down here. The caliper, hose. You know, all treated up in here. New bumper bolts. Most every screw or bolt that I've used on this car is stainless. I've tried to replace everything with stainless screws. Stainless bolts where possible. So there you go. Pretty clean looking underneath. No obvious visible rust. There's the inside. Need any more pictures or whatever, let me know. I'll see what we can do. Happy hunting.